Hey people, it's Niles talking. Now, this is a review about the film Barbarian. It's a horror movie. Now, I'm going to say this, spoilers. I'm going to talk about the film, and I'm also going to talk about it from discussions of the themes of white supremacy, racism, and other things like that. So if you're just turned off by those things and just think those things are ridiculous, then just turn off because you're not going to enjoy it from this point on. So anyway, this is where I'm going to go. The film starts with basically a woman ending up in an Airbnb in Detroit, and there is a man there. It then plays a sort of complex game of cat and mouse where you start thinking, is he really just a mistaken booking who just happened to be there at the same time? Or is this some kind of con game where he's a predator? Or, possibly both, that he ended up there by mistake, but he's a predator. And it gives constant clues, like, oh, he's too nice, trying to allay her fears, which makes him even more suspicious. Only a predator will be trying to make her feel safe. And then what happens is she goes downwards and finds a room underneath the house, sort of like a tunnel, and it leads to a sort of chamber, basically a snuff film room. There's a room with blood on it, there's a camera, there's a bucket where probably feces used to be. It looks pretty horrific. She goes up and tells him, and she's now convinced that he's normal, at least more so because she made it through the night and he did not attempt to harm her. She then comes down, so he then says, okay, look, can I just go take a look? And he goes there, and then he just disappears. And then she's shouting, Keith, 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 and then goes to find him, and then he finds out he's injured in a section beyond the area where she had been in, and then gets abducted and killed by a monster. It then cuts to another scene completely unrelated, where there's a man driving who is a film star. He is the owner of the house. He's basically been accused of rape, and he now facing huge legal and financial problems as all his job opportunities cut up. So he leaves the state to go to Michigan to survey the home and start thinking, how can I sell it? How can I make money off of it to get all the money he can for his legal bounds? He then finds the torture chamber, and he doesn't really pay much attention to it. He's just completely oblivious in his attempt to think, can this underground area be used for money? Long story short, he gets captured, the woman escapes, and the monster inside it is basically the former owner of the house had been a serial killer rapist, and he had been abducting women, he'd been having sex with them, and he'd been, if anyone has ever seen the story of Joseph Fritzl in Austria, it is basically that, but times 10. It is really creepy and scary. And anyway, so what happens is she escapes, she tells the police don't care, they've come there, they say, have you got a key? No. And they just completely dismiss her, think of her just another crackhead, making up stories, and they leave her, and she tries to find her way back in, get him out. And earlier on in the story, there was a black man who tried to stop her going in. She thought he was attacking her because he was running up to her in a panic. Then he's the one who saves her, from the house, and he basically explains the story. When she and the accused man get out of the house, they get taken in by the black homeless guy, who basically explains the story to us about what that monster is. It's just the product of Frank's years and years of rape and monstrosity. And then basically they end up killing the monster, and the rapist accused film star dies. Now, with that out of the way, I want to discuss things in the film related to what I was talking about, because I was reading a book just today, basically The Sex Imperative by M. Baruti. I can't remember his full name, but you can look it up, The Sex Imperative. So I wrote down some notes, and I started thinking about the things that talk about white supremacy in the film. I want to be clear, I don't think the filmmakers even knew of these things. I think it's one of these subconscious Freudian slips that come into the film where they aren't even aware of it. So one of the things I thought about, the house is painted yellow. Now, the original owner of the house, the rapist who owned it, who had these underground tunnels under there, is a white male, and he has blondish hair. And I thought, it's quite eerie how it is, because you'd think for a horror film perspective, maybe the house would be painted something more sinister, like maybe red for blood, or black, or something blue but it's a bright, cheery yellow. So when you see it amongst the flashback where the film used to be, where the neighborhood used to look like, it's quite bright and yellow and colorful, and it looks like a symbolic representation of Frank. His hair is blonde, the house is blonde. But underneath the house, just like underneath Frank's exterior, is evil. There's a whole some stuff so dark and so evil, it cannot ever be allowed to be admitted to its existence. It's the same reason why Frank kills himself rather than allow himself to be taken out of the tunnels and exposed to the world for his evil. And I want to say this, the house is the only good one left in a destroyed neighborhood. And I thought, is that some kind of commentary about how white supremacy views the world? That in order to survive the harshness of the world, only the evil and wicked can survive. The house, filled with all its evil and its abomination, is the only one that not only is still occupied, but is pristine. It looks brand new. Not like a kind of worn down house. It's still functional, but kind of like a bit beat down. No, it looks perfect, just like the day it was made. Truly incredible in the neighborhood as destroyed as the one presented in the film. And all the men who enter the house are white males. Even Keith, the initial character who was shown as just a victim of the monster, he, right up until his death, he is portrayed as this, is he just playing a fake out ruse? So, all the men in the house that are evil are white males. That's something I noticed within the film. They are the only men who enter the house. Plus, and then again, that they're potentially evil. And secondly, despite how the film talks constantly about, alludes to childbirth, there are no children in the film. Despite the fact that there are obviously children who were birthed and raised in the basement or underground dwelling, and there's a film that has been put on for the quote-unquote children to look at so he can raise his breeders, no children are there. And it's a commentary on white supremacy, that there is no innocence, there are no children, there's only a means to an end. The children are just a means to create more soldiers or more people to have power, or objects for pleasure, as Frank views them. And what else is there? And the main character who goes in, the female, she's not just a female, she's a black female. Well, technically mixed, but for the purpose of the film, she looks black. She goes in there and she's the only, and then the only character who is the good man, the one who tries to stop all this, is a black male. So he runs up to her, and it's a fake out, a red herring in the film. He looks scary because he's in a panic trying to stop her going in the house. But he's the only good one. He rescues her from the house, and he shelters her and the rapist actor from the monster when she comes out. So what is he trying to say? Going back to what I was saying about the perspective I was reading in the sex imperative, I kept thinking, is it trying to say that the actual pure African-centered black male's perspective is not one of sexual violence or predation? When he's just by himself, he is just trying to protect the woman, not trying to take advantage of her. Is that what the film is trying to allude to? And then I want to talk about the cops. When they come in there, I notice quite clearly they have two cops, one black male cop and a white male cop. And is this a representation of, say, blacks who get taken to the power structure? Because on the surface, he looks powerful, strong, physically built, and authoritative. However, the black female who is in danger, he's completely dismissive. He is the one who is speaking. He just dismisses her. He says, get your hands off the car. He doesn't take her seriously. He thinks that she's just a crackhead. He goes to her house. And again, this goes to a thing. He walks up to the house, checks it, but he doesn't go in. The black male does not enter the house, not even to just perform any sort of check. And then what I really thought was quite unnerving is there was a shot in the film of the white male cop looking at the black female protagonist. And I'm like, what are they trying to say? Is it that the cops know? Or is it that he, the white male cop, specifically knows what evil goes on in that house, and he's just keeping quiet as the black male cop blunders around, dismissing everything that he sees and hears around him in an effort to protect the power structure? Now, I want to reiterate, do I personally think that's what the filmmakers intended or their meanings? I sincerely don't think so. But I couldn't help but think of it when I was reading that book, The Sex Imperative. And I would urge everyone to read it. It's quite fascinating. Along with Dr. Francis Quest Welsing's The ISIS Papers, it really sheds a light on the hidden layers of our society, what things we take for normal. So anyway, that's what I've talked about in the film and some of my takes. Please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.